and welcome back to another episode of The Average White Guys. My name is Alex Haynes, one of the owners of A Squared. Alex and Alex, we own A Squared, and we're here to help you with your marketing. Whether it's done for you marketing or helping you learn marketing through our coaching program, we're here to get you noticed online. And I'm here with our illustrious, amazing, good-looking man of a man, the only man about town I care about right now in this room that's not my business partner. That's right, it's Justin from LOW. Say hi, Justin.
Hey everybody, I'm Justin with LOW Properties and Community Real Estate Services.
Do you like all my little extra?
It definitely makes me feel better going into these podcasts.
I thought that you would like that. I like all the other things other than my business partner. I thought that would be fun. Anywho, what are we talking about today? I'm super excited to be here. I've had a couple energy drinks, so I'm ripping and raring to go. What are we talking about?
What? What's that you say?
What's what I say?
We're talking about communication today.
Oh.
And the reason I use those words, what's that you say, is it reminded me of the book Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. And there's a poem in there called Saturday. And the little girl in there, the whole time, she's going, I can't go out today. I had the measles and the mumps, the chicken pox, all these things. She's broken arm. She cannot go outside until she realizes it's Saturday. And so she says, what? What's that you say? It's Saturday. I'm going out to play. And so when this comes into communication with me, we need to be clear on what we're talking about. So you always want to make sure that other person who you're communicating to is not saying, what? What's that you say?
You know, that's a great poem. And I think that really talks about something that I did this last week. You know, I have a little bit of something to admit to you, Justin. I cheated on us. I saw another podcaster. I know I shouldn't have, but I'll be honest. I loved every second of it. So we may have to talk about our future relationship and if that's okay. But just joking aside, I was on another podcast with another marketer, and we had a blast. We talked about all things marketing. We talked about social media, where things were going to be in the next 5 years, and because it's rare for both of us to meet people at our level who understand the depth of marketing we understood. Halfway through the podcast, we really got granular. We really got into some of the nitty gritty. And right after, like not even 5 minutes, we realized we had done a disservice to the audience. Most of the people who were listening had no idea what we were talking about. We had lost the audience because we got way too in depth and we didn't keep them in mind. Now we corrected this. We laughed it off. We explained what we were talking about, but we made a huge mistake. We forgot who our audience was because we got wrapped up in who we were talking to individually. And I think that's super important as in this podcast, as we help business owners really focus on things they need to do in their first 5 years is always remember who your audience is when you're trying to communicate. This is for marketing. This is for meetings. This is just for simple communication in general. You should know who you're talking to.
Yeah, when it comes to my business, I'm in the HOA industry. And we have over 2,500 homes that we deal with. So that's 2,500 personalities, or I guess if you double that for maybe couples, almost 5,000 different personalities that we are dealing with. And how do you communicate with people in that realm? And then also, we have more direct contact with our board of directors where we need to communicate with them on the best practices on how to run an association without giving legal advice. And so this is difficult at times because of so many different personalities that we're trying to merge to help come with the best decision for that association. So we have to look at different hats on how we are communicating to them in board meetings. And then also when it comes to, like, we get a lot of projects we have to deal with where we are doing, say, asphalt projects, painting projects throughout the community. And you need to be able to communicate to owners what is happening. And you even want to try and over communicate. And what happened recently is I had an asphalt project. And so what happens during these asphalt projects is nobody can park on there for almost a day and a half. So their cars have to be out the night before as well. So it's almost 2 days where they cannot park or do anything in the community with their vehicles. And so you have to be able to reiterate how important this is. Your car is going to be towed if it's there. You are going to be you are going to have to pay for any damages that are maybe to the street. And one of the things that we were going to do is we were just going to do an email blast. And then it kind of got down to it, and I'm like, I think we might want to do a little bit more communication. Why don't we go ahead and post notices on everybody's door, front and back, and make sure that there is no way that they can say they were not been communicated with. And once we did that, we didn't have any problems with this association. Everybody was out in time. the vendor got to me and said, hey, we don't have to worry about towing any vehicles today. And so it was just a good reminder of how well you need to communicate with owners or just people in general when you need to get your point across.
I want to be the first person to say I'm so proud that you have listened to all our conversations about communicating because we've talked about communication, all the different types. And I think this is really important for a lot of people, especially my younger generation. I'm going to say something that's going to make people gasp. Are you ready for this, Justin? Print still works.
What?
I know, right? I as much as I love digital, there's something to be said about getting a letter, about it posted on your door, about a postcard. Like people get different things from different types of communication. And I think for our audience, I think this is a great time for us to talk about knowing your audience. What do you want to talk? What do you things have you learned, especially with the HOA, about understanding your audience?
Well, actually, I'm going to take this away from the business right now. It's still related to business because it's how I've been learning over the years. But I'm involved in two different organizations. One is BNI, it's where you learn to go and teach others about your business to other business owners, and they go out there and try and promote your product. And so in there, you have to do what are called 60-second infomercials. And during this time, you are trying to teach the other business owners what they can say to other people while they're going throughout their day-to-day business or just lives, because it could be friends and family. And I can tell in there where some of the business owners, when they are not communicating the way they need to or the most appropriate way of getting their education across. And so that's where it also comes to know your audience. And your audience is not just the person always in front of you, it may be who other people are going to talk to. And another organization that I'm involved with is Toastmasters. And in Toastmasters, you really are learning to be a better public speaker. And with this, there are times where you're giving a speech. And I've given a speech one time about golf, and nobody in that Toastmaster group knows anything about golfs. And I'm using slang, I'm using colloquialisms, and I'm trying to get the point across with things where they're going, I have no idea what a bogey is. And a bogey is just when you basically end up hitting over par. And sometimes they just don't know what that sling is. And so you need to know your audience to make sure that you're getting your point across in different circumstances and knowing what those circumstances are.
I think that's so good and it's so relevant. And I'm so glad you told me what a bogey was because I didn't know. And then you told me, I was like, oh, I know par. So I understood that much. And I think that goes to the next thing we want to talk about is there's a phrase out there that I don't like when it comes to communication. It's called fake it till you make it. And that doesn't always work in certain aspects. Yeah, we want to fake some things because we're not all going to be at 100% where we're going to be in a couple years but you cannot pretend to know something when you don't know it. You should know your material. And secondly, you shouldn't rely on charisma or fake charisma to sell something when charisma is not what's needed. And I'm going to touch from a nurturing standpoint here. Relationship, especially when it comes to marketing, is key for long-term progress. Long-term sales, long-term audience building lives in the realm of nurturing. You hear it all the time. We're going to teach you how to nurture your email leads. We're going to help you nurture clients. We're going to turn your fans into loyal buyers. They're going to love your product and always buy from you. This used to be a thing called brand loyalty. Back in the day, you were loyal to I only buy whatever it was, right? And that's a thing still. And a lot of times, and a lot of marketing has forgotten that aspect that you really are trying to build relationships with your customers. And so they will overemphasize charisma. They will fake it, so to speak, until they make it. And they will lose out on the opportunity of actually building long term relationships when it comes to content, when it comes to doing marketing, when it comes to communication. When it comes to anything marketing, I'll just be honest, that is 100% communication. You and I talked about this many times, right? We need to learn about who we're talking to. And it's better to be honest and humble than to lie or say a half truth and be found out later.
So you mentioned a couple key words in there that hit me when we talk about fake it till you make it. Because when we were preparing for this podcast, I was saying a lot of us, especially entrepreneurs getting into the business, we are faking it until we make it. You don't know what you don't know until you make those mistakes and you end up finding out. And so that's really not faking it. What it is the experience that's making you a better person over time. I think I mentioned it a couple times. I listen to Alex Hermosi a lot, and he always talks about. He goes, I was sucked at sales until I finally got my 10,000 sales call, and now I don't suck at sales anymore because he learned every time what didn't work and what worked. And so he wasn't faking it at any time. He just didn't know the best solution or the best outcome sometimes or the best words to say until he had the experience to do it. But I think the key word that comes to me is the honesty of it. It's yes, it's fake if you're trying to sell something you don't know the product on, or if you're trying to overpromise something that you don't know how to back it up. Or I like this one better. I got into the HOA industry. Within 6 months of me being an assistant manager, the manager that I was training under was diagnosed with cancer. And she needed to take some time off for that. I was thrown into the lion's den. So I was going into these board meetings where I only have 6 months worth of experience compared to her 10. Now, one of the things I told them all the time is, look, I don't know the answer to that at this moment, but I will get back to you. I will find out the answer, and then we can move on from there. So in a sense, I was faking it because I'm a manager coming in now without the experience, but I was very clear with them on where I felt comfortable giving them advice and not giving them advice. And so again, that's knowing your audience and knowing how to be honest with them, I think is the key takeaway there.
I think that's I love this story because it's very honest and it's a huge reflection of who you are. And if I could find more people like you, I want to put them in a box and then sell it because you're an amazing person. And that's why we do this podcast with you. But also, I wish there were more people who understood honesty. There have been many times when we've run into people who will overpromise. We've all had that experience, who will try to sell you the world and end up inadvertently, due to their excitement, become snake oil salesmen. Right. And we've run into this with great products that could sell themselves, but for whatever reason, that person decided to sell it as something else. And the product in itself was really good. But for some reason, they wanted to add extra acclamations that weren't true. There were rumors at best. I'm not going to go into any details, but to the point where we will never, ever, ever point anyone to that person. We will never buy that product ever again. We will avoid anything that person sells like the plague. I don't care if it's the best thing since sliced bread. They've poisoned that well. I do not trust them.
And sometimes I think what happens with that, they may get a sale, but the problem is our business or businesses are about the continual sales. It's about the continual business. And yeah, you might get that snake oil that's going to get that one sale for what they need at the time, but it's that brand loyalty. It's that nobody's going to say, oh, hey, go see this person next. So in knowing your audience, you need to know the different personalities sometimes. For me, it's difficult because I'm dealing with, like I said, the 2,500 homes. So there's so many different personalities. You can never get every single one in there. But what we do talk about in a lot of our podcasts is the bank. And the first one that comes in there is the blueprint. And I think I can speak to this because I am part blueprint and I am part knowledge. And when it comes to somebody selling me with any business, I want to know the ins and outs. I want to know how this is going to work. I want to know how this is going to benefit me. Now, I know anybody that's being sold wants to know those things, but I want to know more details than most are going to know, or most are going to want to know. But there's a fine line there, because if you are using those colloquialisms, or you're using that jargon, or you're using those terms that are too over the top, it's not going to help as well. So you got to have that balance of knowing what a knowledge person wants and where that fine line is of making sure you are giving them enough information to where they can make that confident decision.
As we've talked about this, and you and I've talked about bank outside of these podcasts, I really want our audience to understand that it takes time to recognize some of these personalities. And it's going to take practice. So don't feel frustrated that you may not get this right away. And I think what you said about the blueprint was perfect. So I want to talk about one of the things I am, which is action, right? So an action person, they're going to be motivated by fear of loss. They don't want to miss out. and there are buy it now type of personalities. Now, there's two types of buy it now personalities. You have the it's on sale, and I'm going to get a great best offer right now, pay the least amount of money, or I want the best, most unique, most exclusive, and willing to pay for it type of buy now people. Depending on what you're selling, you have to recognize what they're, you have to listen. Active listening is really, really important for all of these. You have to be willing to learn the art of the conversation and art of the listening, because every person will tell you what their main language is if you learn how to listen, right? So an action will already be ready to buy, and they will ask one of two things. They'll go, well, what's the better system or the better offer? They're looking to be upsold. What's the cheaper? How can I save some money? They're looking for the best value, not the best cost, the best value.
But they're not looking for more information on it. So that's why it's the action that comes into play. Is that accurate?
100% action has already made a decision to buy. They're trying to figure out the best for whatever the situation is. They're not necessarily looking for background on it. That's going to come at another point. A nurturer, on the other hand, really cares less about the money. Usually they care about helping people, making the community better, or even supporting a cause. Some people will just come in because that product supports a cause they believe in. They'll pay for it. They'll even pay extra money because X amount of dollars will go to support the thing they want to support.
So when it comes to knowledge personalities, they they kind of fall in with the blueprint as well. But where the knowledge comes in is they want the time to be able to digest it. They want to make sure that they, like we talked about the snake oil salesman, they don't want to be sold at that time. They want to feel like they've done the research themselves, that they can come and talk to you about it. And then at the end as well, they're going to take a little bit more time and they're going to analyze it a little bit more. If because I'm part knowledge, I know if you tell me that I have to make that decision right now, otherwise the sale is going to be gone, well, I guess that sale is gone. And if you tell me that it's going to be gone in 2 weeks, well, I'll think about it in that time frame. But I am not going to I'm not the action type. And that's what knowledge is really want, is they want that comfort of knowing they made that right decision.
I want to ask you a follow-up question about knowledge, because I've known some knowledge people, and there's one aspect of selling I've also learned I think it's important. If you're selling to a knowledge person, I could be wrong. Once you make that decision, is customer service the most important thing in that moment?
Yes. Over product, anything else. And I'm going through that right now because we have a software that we just purchased, and that customer service sucks. I mean, it's taking a week and a half to get back. And I can even say that on my business right now. We went through this software, and the software has put us 2 steps back with customer service. And I think that's why I'm so frustrated with it right now, is because now it's making me look bad for my company based on the service that we're getting from another company. So it's trickling down. So yes, I think service is the most important when it comes to knowledge as well.
So yeah, Justin, I kind of figured you would say that, because I also work with a knowledge type person. And here's a really weird thing. We're talking about communication, and then I asked about service. Most people, our blueprints especially, are saying that's not communication. That's deliverables. That's totally different. It's not for a knowledge person. And this is where you have to understand your audience very well. Part of communication for a knowledge person is the sale doesn't end at the end of the sale. The sale ends when the job is completed. Knowledge need that extra step. And here's the great thing. If you always do a great job at delivering what you're supposed to on your promise, you're going to have good customers. When you do that to a knowledge person, you will have a customer for life until you break their trust. They are some of the most loyal people you will ever meet. And that could equate to millions of dollars for your business, and someone who will champion your business to all the social media platforms, everywhere they go, because they are brand loyal. These people could become your super fans. So it is really important to understand where that communication ends with them. It doesn't end at the end of the sale. And this podcast doesn't end with that little bit of info. You know what? I want to take this moment and say, whatever you are, blueprint, action, nurture, or knowledge type, we appreciate you. We love the fact that you chose the time to listen to this podcast. Hopefully you choose to subscribe, or even throw a comment down below. because when you're with us, it makes us feel better. It makes us feel good. And for our blueprint and knowledge person who's also in the room, they don't care as much about that. They care about you actually getting that information and you're doing something with it. So we encourage you this week, go forth and help someone, make someone's day brighter by asking them those questions, listening to them, and delivering. We know that you can be an amazing business. And we hope this podcast helped you because we are
The average white guys.